To the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan, marooned all the way out in San Francisco this week. And with me, as always, is my good friend and patient co-host, Jim Stamm, who waited extra late to do this with me this week. So thank you, sir.
Oh, man, no problem. And I would just want to give you some props and give us some props because we've talked about this show and how we want to do it and how we like to do things. And we show up every week and we're consistent and we try to do really good shows and content. And this is just another week where we've had to juggle some things. You're out on the West Coast and we still find a way to get it done. So I appreciate it, man. And hopefully the people do too that listen. So
yeah, it's always worked out. We haven't missed one except for, I think it was Thanksgiving week or Christmas week last year. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was an entire station shut down. So
right, yeah, we would have done one. So yeah, but no, it's cool that we've been able to do it every week, and hopefully we're able to continue that. So
I thought let's start with a little surprise topic this week, huh? Because I didn't expect this to take off the way it did, but I threw out a little poll. Last week after Mitch Keller's appearance, and it was pretty simple. It was just, are we ready to say Mitch Keller has arrived? Now, I'm not a dummy. You all know, of course, arrived is a word that's going to lead certain people to think different things. But even so, the poll, first of all, you guys took to it. Like, I think we got 344 votes, Jim.
I mean, yeah.
That's a lot. And we didn't even say we were going to talk about it. So, this is just really, really cool response.
We've had O'Neill Cruz polls that haven't had that kind of numbers, if that tells you something.
It's true.
Anyway,
it's true.
Yeah.
But yes got 54.7. No got 45.3. So
yes, meaning 54.7 said he has turned the corner, right?
He has arrived. Yes.
He has arrived. That's right. That's right.
And no is about 45%.
Mm-hmm.
So, I thought it's Pittsburgh. I thought maybe what I was going to see mostly was cautious optimism, right?
Sure.
That's a lot more yes votes than I thought he was going to get. And I kind of put that out there because I often ask people, when have you seen enough of Mitch Keller? Because every time you bring it up, you feel like everyone says, I just need to see him do it for another 2 or 3. I just need to see him do it consistently. It's been about 9 weeks now. He's had like one kind of stinky start in that stretch. But aside from that, he's been pretty consistent, really, ever since introducing the two-seamer. So
yeah.
At what point are you seeing enough to say he arrived if you voted no? I guess is the next follow-up, right? Where you sit on this?
Fortunately or unfortunately, I actually got to see him start against the Yankees, and things kind of went off the rails for him there in that start. He
looked really good until I think it was the 4th inning, and then
yes, everything looked fine. The Yankees have done that a time or two to people, so I don't know that I want to read a whole lot into that start. It was actually a very competitive game until that point. I would say that if you're not at least willing to explore the fact that things might be looking a little different, then either you're not willing to come off of an opinion that he was always going to stink, or you haven't been paying attention as to why he's looked a little better in the last month or two, and know the reasons.
Or he was so bad last year, and his struggles so notorious because he was expected to help last year, realistically.
Yeah.
If you're tuning in and out here and there, you maybe haven't really seen that he's been trending in a certain direction this year for the most part. So it's
And it's tough to change a narrative too, right?
yes, it very much is. But I guess that's why it was interesting that so many people reacted to it, because there were a lot of strong opinions, and I mean we got damn near 30 comments too. So I mean like
Right.
let's read a few of them, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Was there anything interesting that jumped out?
Yeah, like here's one from Kevin. He's on the fence here. Love to say yes. We voted no. Need to see how he does for a few more, starts where he's putting up these kind of numbers, and he's still encouraged. I think that's completely fair. I think that's probably where I thought most people would line up. So I was surprised that the vote went yes, because most of the comments are like this. So it's almost like if you voted no, you kind of felt the need to explain it,
Uh-huh.
because it made you
Yeah,
feel a
that's
little
interesting.
queasy. Like you want to give the yes, but you can't. And you better explain why, because you want to, but you just can't.
Yeah, or someone's doubling down. Either way you want to look
Right,
at it,
right.
and they just don't want to back off of it. I mean, look, here's the thing. Like he's added this sinker to the equation. And I mean, since he's done that, the
Yeah.
numbers look different. So, um, I don't know how you can't sit there and say, look, I think the days of expecting Mitch Keller to be
An ace.
an ace or whatever you want to call him, top end of the rotation guy, maybe not. But he's showing the signs, at least this year and of late, that I think you can see him definitely as like a, middle of the rotation guy with a little bit of upside. I still am surprised he doesn't miss. He's still, for all his stuff, Gary, he is still not even averaging a strikeout an inning, which that kind of blows my mind.
Well, I think that's probably not going to change now.
No, I
Well, the reason that I say that is because I think he was getting more strikeouts before, but it was what was making his pitch count get out of control. And he was constantly trying to get people to chase a four seam fastball. With the two seamer, he's trying to get contact
yeah.
and quick outs, and it's helping him in a lot of ways. It's making his fastball play better when he throws the four seamer.
Without a doubt, they are working well off of each other, and it's because it's a similar arm angle. You're only talking
Yeah,
maybe 4, 5, 6 miles per hour difference, and then as a hitter, you are having trouble deciphering what that is when it gets close to the plate.
yeah. I mean, let's take a quick break here, and when
Okay.
we come back, I think let's pick up just a little bit more, read a few more of the comments, and then maybe
Yeah,
you can call your shot.
sounds good, bud.
All right, and we are back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Jim and Gary with you. And we're picking up our conversation about our poll question about Mitch Keller here and basically how you feel about him. Um, I was kind of surprised to see so many people ready to admit that they felt he had become somebody they look forward to seeing pitch, basically.
It deserves more than a 10-minute segment. Let's put it that way. With all
Right.
that, with all
So,
that.
any other thoughts you had on Mitch? What you've seen? What has
Yeah.
led you to think what you think?
Well, just going back to this sinker of his is, and this is something that our buddy Alex Stump put out yesterday or the day before, and it might have been right after his great start, maybe his best start ever as a Pirate, one of the best against.
Certainly up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, deep longest he's went in a game was against the Marlins. I mean, everybody I think has either saw it or read about it, and he was really effective. 7 innings and striking out guys, not walking guys, and whatever. But here's the thing: Alex put this out, and this is kind of what we're talking about, is since he has adopted this sinker, he is averaging 5.5 innings a start and a 3.86 ERA. So
Yeah. I
uh,
mean and that
if
has
you're
to be
not,
a trend, man. That's been a minute now.
yeah, that's just it. Like, so I think if people, you have to acknowledge those numbers. We're talking about a league where 5.5 innings is sadly pretty darn good anymore. I mean,
You're right.
you anytime you start pushing toward the sixth inning of a game. So it's just you have to know why people are talking about him a little differently. And I think if you're willing to take a look at that, then it starts making a little more sense if you're going to be reasonable about it.
Right. And I took a shot at myself for using the word arrived, but I do things like that sometimes to get conversation going. I feel like if I box you into a corner
Hmm.
by saying like, is he a future all-star? I think that's I know the answer before I ask it. And that's not entertaining to me. I know would
Sure.
be 85%. But I guess what I like that I see from Mitch Keller, I feel like it's sustainable, and I think that's why I feel like it's different. And it's not because I'm looking at the underlying analytics or something. It's because he has a very repeatable motion. The arm plane seems to be right now.
Yeah.
Even when he doesn't have the control of one of the pitches, they play well enough in the zone that he can miss a little bit. And as long
He's
as he's
giving
keeping it down.
Yeah, he's what he's doing now, Gary, is he's giving himself a chance every
Yeah.
time he goes out. And there were times where Mitch Keller wasn't giving himself a chance. He either didn't trust his stuff or he was trying to nibble a little too much here and there.
Yeah.
And it was always, always catching up with him.
Well, and in turn, you have to say, I think it's early yet to expect the fan base to start thinking like this, but I'm sorry, I'm going to. A team like this, in my opinion, needs to make sure that when they develop a pitcher, they're keeping them if they're reasonable. I think a team like this would do better to try to lock in the mid-grade starters, like the 2 through 5, 2 through 4 type guys,
Hmm.
like a JT Brubaker, like a Mitch Keller. Lock some of them up for little extensions beyond arbitration. It takes so long to onboard them. By the time you start getting going, they're hitting arbitration. That's just not sustainable for how you're trying to win. So if you want to make sure some of these guys are around for the window, you're going to have to take a risk here and say, hey, JT Brubaker's been good enough. I know he's older, but whatever. Let's keep him for a couple extra years beyond arbitration. Mitch Keller.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny we probably could be having this same exact conversation about the guy you just mentioned, which is Brubaker.
Sure.
Since, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
Well, as we're recording, he just went 7 strong against the Fish. So,
and been
shutout.
yeah, and after some horrific luck and slash, he started off rough in his first few starts of the year, but after that, he's been pretty much on the same plane as Mitch Keller has been with some of his
Certainly.
starts.
And he's been going much later into games since they've allowed him to go. In fact, today, before the game, Derek Shelton mentioned that because yesterday was a bullpen game, they expected JT to come out here and give them 7. And he did.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. He's done for the night. 7 innings, 3 hits, 9 strikeouts, 2 walks.
Hey. And it's
You
hard to
know,
complain about what you're getting out of production wise out of JT Brubaker, Mitch Keller, Zach Thompson, um,
Zach Thompson's another one that
Rowanzi when he's back up, and you know we're not going to cover that again.
no.
Quintana has been really solid. That's going to hurt to lose him. So who's next? Is it Dylan Peters? Is it Bryce Wilson, who looked good in his two call ups? I mean, man, we could really go on a riff about starting pitching here, man, because if you really think about it, we're starting to see what 2023's competition is going to look like before they even add anything, and they will.
Yeah, yeah, it is one of those things where when you look at it right now, and it's funny how some of this stuff fluctuates, um, because probably a month and a half ago or 2 months, it really was looking really shaky. I mean, Bryce Wilson
Oh,
had
yeah.
faltered, and Keller was still struggling, and Brubaker just couldn't seem to get out of his own way, and so. It's really funny how a month or two can make a big difference. I hope we're having this same conversation or a very similar one in, month and a half from now. Um,
It
it
makes you
certainly looks
wonder.
like we could.
It makes you wonder. I know that spring wasn't normal. I do. I get it. I acknowledge it. I understand that pitching has kind of been through the ringer since COVID came about. But the Pirates, I think, slow walked their pitchers a lot more than the rest of the league did. And I think it set almost every single one of them up for failure at the beginning of the season. They weren't going to get wins. They were only really going to be eligible for losses. They weren't getting any run support. They were they were not allowed to go more than 4 or 5 innings ever.
Excruciatingly conservative as a fan to watch.
So I wonder how much they held them back is what I'm saying.
Hmm.
We talked about starting pitching being a problem all year. I wonder how much earlier they potentially could have solved it if only there was some kind of a stretch out program similar to other teams in the league. Because I've watched a lot of baseball. I didn't see the other teams this conservative. I'm just saying.
I mean, they were on the very, very conservative side of things, and I mean, I don't know, man. It would really be interesting to sit down and be able to talk to somebody like Dewey Robinson and say like,
Right.
um, are you now attributing where they're at now to that very conservative approach, and just
Ah,
see
that's a
what they
great
would
point.
say?
That's a great point, though. Is that maybe why we're starting to see them all hit their stride now when this is traditionally hitting season?
It always is hitting season.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of weird to see them starting to thrive right now, right? But either way, I think as we continue on heading towards 2023, the end of this season, you could potentially see them add in other talents like Michael Burrows, I think, could get a shot. Cody Bolton could get a shot. I mean, you might even see a reward for Quinn Priester in late September.
It, I mean, here's the thing too is like, and I think actually when we do the call your shot, it's something I want to jump into just a tiny bit more. Is like, if nothing else, if you're not going to do anything else, at least go out. And there are some guys out there, even in your bullpen, that you could go out and and make some signings there if you
Mm-hmm.
can't find the starting rotation help that you want. So I would hope that both of those things are on the table, and it will make a big difference as to what kind of season we're talking about them having next year. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah. It's either if they spend even a modest amount of money to bring in my opinion, they need to bring in a starter that they can consider to be in the top three of their rotation. That's all I'm saying. I don't put like 1 through 5 on guys. I just top third of the rotation. And if you can bring in somebody like that, I honest to God believe there's enough there to almost guarantee a wild card run. If not,
Which
they'd have to have a lot of dominoes fall the right way with pitching.
Yeah, and I mean, just to be clear, I think when you say wild card run, like when I hear that, I think somewhere close to 500 or around 500 is getting you in that
I think
conversation.
they'll be close to in the conversation for flirting with 500 next year, regardless of what they do in the free agent market. But I think it just through attrition. I think there's enough pitching that they'll at least start the year fairly confident with who they're going to start.
Right.
And I'd like to see them go out and get somebody just to make it a little harder. I'd, you know,
Yeah, well, let me say this, and we've talked about not putting the numbers on the starters, but I think it's important in the sense of if all they're talking about doing is bringing in like what you would consider to be no better than maybe like a fifth starter, then that's not what I'm interested in and what I'm looking for, and I'd rather than just that to me doesn't accomplish much of anything. That caliber of a guy.
you'd rather just see Cody Bolton be a fifth starter.
Yeah, because we know what a fifth starter is going to look like, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not gonna look pretty, and
we say
they'll
that, but Quintana, for making $2 million as a veteran, was probably arguably brought in here to be the fifth starter, and he's probably been their best.
Yeah,
So
I mean Tyler Anderson and Jose Quintana, they got more out of that than what they want. Do I want to make a habit of trying that? Probably not that much.
I'm surprised nobody's saying that Oscar Marin is resurrecting careers like Ray did,
That's right.
right?
Our buddy Ray Searage.
But I don't know. They have done pretty well with those pickups, so at least credit to whoever in the scouting department is deciding that these guys have something more to give than they've shown, or poised to come back and do something. In other words, I'll say this: if somebody like Corey Kluber, who I think started to stink there pretty badly, were to be identified by the Pirates as somebody they want to take a shot at, I might not be so quick to scoff next year.
Yeah. Well, my whole thing is too like if it's if it's a lefty, I'm a little more intrigued.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like lefties get by with a lot less, and there's more of an opportunity for something to still be there, I think, than guys
Well,
that are heavily dependent on just flat out velocity and stuff.
I'll say this: it has to be a lefty. I mean,
Well,
they
I
don't
mean,
have any, and like they have to get one. I think Omar Cruz is still a pipe dream for next year,
probably
and
a little too soon.
yeah, so I don't know, and they just don't have one. So
And maybe that's a good topic for another day, is just totally like how we got so lopsided with pitching on the right-handed side of things, and how we got so lopsided offensively with the left-handed bats.
right,
I mean, something
and
interesting.
just trust me, they're not counting on Solometa jumping up next year. So don't say it, anybody.
Oh,
Uh,
well, I can think of a couple that will, so we'll let them do it.
Yeah, I guess I'll tell you what. Let's do call your shot. I think that's going to keep us on the pitching train
Yeah.
for a minute, and might even carry over into our third segment. Who knows, huh?
Yep.
Hey boys, just doing a quick shot from the backyard after a pretty exciting win over the Brewers. Just had a thought on the back end of the bullpen, how Crow and Bednar have developed, and I guess I thought earlier in the season that Bednar was a pretty nice trade chip, and would make sense to potentially look at moving them. But I really feel like both those guys under control till 2026 or until the 2026 season. Be nice to have those two as a reliable 1-2 punch at the end of the games. You look at teams like the Brewers with Williams and Hader, and it's usually just over by the 8th inning. So I don't know. That's my shot for today.
All right, so that's call your shot. It's our buddy Jay, and he starts out by saying that Will Crow is the 8th inning guy with Bednar, and I guess he has been some, huh? I kind of haven't really thought of him like that, but I guess he kind of has become a little bit of an eighth inning guy now, huh? Ever since Stratton struggled.
Yeah, they had to go a little bit different with a couple of different guys and try them out in some
Yeah, I've
situations.
seen Underwood there a little bit.
Right.
So, you have Underwood and Crow kind of sharing that a little bit. You got De Los Santos jumping in there a little bit towards the closing end of things. Haven't seen them really hand him the eighth very often. But
No, and what I will say is, and Jay and me are very much of like-minded people when we talk about that Brewers situation, what they're able to pull off once you get
oh
past the
yeah,
seventh inning. And I will say that does make them dangerous in the playoffs.
dude, it's even longer than that for the Brewers normally because they throw Suter at you, and
Yeah,
then Boxberger, and
yeah,
then Williams, and then Hayter. They don't need a starter to give them more than five, and all their starters are capable of giving you eight.
I know.
I
They're
mean,
they're if anything, they've almost. It's hard to believe the record's not a little better, and I do
well,
think that
they
makes them
just don't.
very dangerous
They just
in
don't
a
have the
playoff
hitting.
series.
They just don't
Right.
have the hitting, and
Which
that's
is
the
weird because
problem.
you always think of them as kind of being able to hit a little bit, you know.
And I mean, Yelich isn't Yelich,
Yeah.
and Adamas can't do it himself.
Right.
He's not that type of hitter. He's a good hitter, but he's not. He's not one of those Josh Bell in July players.
Yeah. Like that's kind of what I saved a little bit, knowing what the call your shot was going to be
Yeah, yeah.
earlier and shut it down because I wanted to get to it now. Is that's kind of what I'm talking about, is whether it's Crow or somebody that you identify out on the market that you think that can fill that role, and you can get that nasty combination of seventh, eighth, ninth inning. It's pretty much game over on most nights you choose to use this. Boy, that would be nice.
I mean, I'm going to
Is
expound
Crow
on. I'm
go
going to
good?
expound on what Jay said because the bullpen in general right now to me
Those look pretty good.
love the makeup. I
Hmm.
love the makeup of it right now. Tyler Beatty has been a sneaky good pickup. Really good.
I would love to hear what they're doing with him.
I mean, it's been pretty sweet. Like I think he's handled long outings. He's handled short with a little leverage. ERA under 4. Doing a pretty good job eating innings for them and not embarrassing himself. Giving Dwayne Underwood a break from it.
Yeah,
By having that traditional longer reliever back there. Now they get Dylan Peters back in the mix. Not only do they get a good lefty back that actually can get lefties out, they they get a good lefty that can give you some length if you want.
I was just gonna say he provides some versatility.
Yeah,
Quite
Underwood's
honestly.
throwing gas, 98 miles an hour. Kid's got movement like he did when he was originally picked,
Yeah,
as high as he was. The you can just tell he's figured some things out, and it looks so much fun. De, De Los Santos, absolutely great so far rookie campaign. I know they
he,
slow walked him at the beginning, but man, he looks good now.
yeah, he's another one that they went ultra conservative with, and I think Beatty was the one, and I could be wrong here, but I thought he was the one that when the Pirates picked him up, they dusted off a one of his old pitches, which might have been a sinker as well, actually.
It is and was
Yeah.
and I. It's funny that everything's going back to the sinker now. It's cyclical, but like no, it's funny because when they picked up Beatty, I remember it was a big joke on the show. Like I didn't even want to say his name, and then we mentioned him like 12 times.
Yes.
But I mean, what a great sneaky pickup that has been. As much garbage as they've filtered through here,
Yeah.
pretty awesome that happened. And
Yeah. Well, you got. Let me say this too is about Crow. Um, I will say it is kind of funny to think of, like, he went from such a boring starter at times to a guy that when he comes into games now, you actually expect him to pitch well and look
Yes.
pretty darn good doing it. And he has made that transformation in like a year or under it. And that is incredible when you think about it, Gary.
He changed everything about himself. His demeanor
Yeah.
completely changed. He's got this gum chewing thing now, like that he does. He does that heavy breathing that they do. He has a
He's
glare he's developed now.
he's got
He
a little bit of a
storms around the mound after he
strut.
strikes a guy out.
Isn't it odd how much he has changed your like I'm telling you, when I watch a game and he comes in, I expect him
I
to
expect him to
perform.
do well too, and yes, it is very strange. Like I think I tweeted out the other day. I've seen a lot of starters transition to the bullpen and do fine. I have not very often seen one so willingly accept the role and openly go after becoming a really good, trusted option in the back. Most of them try to hang on to that long man in the hope that they can get back to being a starter
Yeah.
or or whatever. Not Will Crow.
Maybe it was as we watched him as a starter, it seemed like such a grind for him. Like so
Yes.
and maybe it was for him internally too, where he just was always fighting against whether it was a role for him or not. So maybe it really wasn't that hard of a sell because God knows watching him, you felt for him. You were like, God, 4 or 5 innings, you're just hoping that he can get there
Well,
somehow.
you remember how slow he was to deliver too.
Oh, God, yes.
Well, ever since he changed to the bullpen, it's just bing, bang, boom. He's just firing balls as soon as the guy's ready. And
Hmm.
maybe that's that pitch calm too. I don't know. Maybe that has changed something for him. But
Do I,
whatever it is, Will Crow to me has been one of the most impressive
it,
pieces this year. I didn't
it,
expect it. I didn't see it coming.
and
And
it's really, it is remarkable. And now, well, do I see him as an eighth inning guy?
that's a different conversation. Yeah, we should have.
Yeah. Boy, I hate to take a guy that's been so successful at what he's doing and then just simply limiting him to something. When I say this, something like that, as if it's not super important. Um, I don't know if I fully see him in that role, but I wouldn't call them crazy for trying it
Yeah, I
either.
see him as an option for that role.
Yeah.
And I think they have right now three good ones. You have Bednar as the closer. I think De Los Santos, Underwood, and um, Crow can all handle the eighth if they have to, which means you automatically have one for the seventh. What they need badly is a lefty, not unlike Tony Watson, that can handle something towards the back end, like seventh or eighth
He,
inning at least. That's what they need,
a,
and those are
a,
tough.
a Tony Watson is a perfect example, but also, like you just said, a very tough guy to find, equally good against lefties and righties.
Yep.
Um, very much he was a man on the mound. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
there wasn't many situations where you didn't feel like Tony Watson was going to be in control of it. Um, Maybe that's something they need to go out and target a little bit too, is either a lefty starter or a lefty guy in the bullpen, that you could throw a little bit more money at and get them in here.
The funny thing is, the only guy we haven't really mentioned is Stratton. He's clearly the weakest link, and it's a shame because he has been a really good pitcher here since his pickup. But
Yeah, he
Chris
was.
Stratton, they're either going to trade him or I can't imagine wanting to return his services next year.
Yeah, I have a feeling like I personally, because he came over from the Angels,
Yep.
and it didn't register very highly on the impact scale when they got him, but he's been above average at least for almost the whole time he's been here.
Yep.
So, but I see it kind of maybe has run its course.
Which happens with I
Yeah,
mean, I think that the Pirates, the old Pirates of like the even the bad '90s Pirates, early and mid 2000s Pirates, they always had one of those guys like that, right?
hmm
Like there was always someone like that could eat innings here and there, and they looked really good, and sometimes they had to close, but eventually their arm fell off.
right.
That's what I think is frustrating about Chris Stratton is his arm hasn't fallen off. His stuff is just as good as it has been. It's just every once in a while he's not throwing a good pitch. And he's getting tagged when he doesn't throw a good pitch. That's really it.
He's and I'm trying to look up real quick. I wanted to see where he was as far as innings pitched and even his age at this point. Um, yeah, he'll be 32 in August.
Right.
Probably not a guy you want to, like you said. Well, are you really going to extend him? I just don't
No.
know. I just don't see it.
No, not at all. And I think on top of that, I think you got players like Nick Mears on the way and Strickland and like they have other guys that I think they or Stratton, I mean, sorry, Stratton. Um, there's a lot of players like that they're still going to need to filter through. Some of these starters are probably Bryce Wilson's a guy that might actually wind up in the bullpen if you think about it. If he doesn't stick a landing in the rotation next year, maybe we should take a break and talk more about this because we have wrapped up Call Your Shot, I think, by saying we're basically unsure if we're calling Will Crow an eighth inning guy yet, but we kind of agree with Jay that we like the 1-2 punch, even if it's menage a trois instead.
And it led us into probably an overdue um, topic and segment on Will Crow and just what that has looked like, to be quite honest. To be
Yeah,
fair to him.
well, I think in many ways he kind of suffered to a lesser degree from what Mitch Keller did. Everybody watched him have a really, really poor season, even though he threw more innings than any other Pirate last year. And I guess maybe we should have given him a little more credit for that because he kind of took one for the team last year too,
He really
to a
did.
degree, didn't he?
Yeah.
Um, but man, he caught me by surprise this year. I didn't expect. I honestly thought he might start the year in AAA. You know,
I will say this just to put a bow on it. They would be, I mean, they would be a heck of a lot worse off on this team and record-wise even without him this year. There's no doubt that's been how big of a piece he has been.
very much so. So let's take a quick break. We come back. Let's talk a little bit about some other things going on the sad side, and maybe a quick outline of what we think the pitching staff's going to look like. Time to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. And Jim, I thought the best way to organize all the thoughts that are racing around our heads right now is probably for us to do like a real quick news flash, quick comments, and move on to the next thing because there's been a lot of little things that I don't think warrant an entire segment, but I do want to touch on them real quick. And we might as well start with the most painful one of all, the Brian Reynolds injury to his oblique.
Mm-hmm.
Obliques are funny.
Very much so.
It's hard to say. This could be 10 days. This could be, 2 months. What do you think, man? I mean, 2 months, that it's going to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the thing. When someone comes to you in the middle of a game and says, "Hey, I think I felt something in my side," you're going to come out of the ball game. They're not going to let you, and that's exactly what happened. And that's what I want to, stress upon people too, is with the obliques, is you don't take a chance and run him back out there and see if it's okay. You know what I mean? Like,
Not now.
so
Back in the 70s, you did. Back in
yeah,
the
yeah.
70s, you just threw some ice at the old timer and told him to get his ass back up there.
Right, right. The only way it would ever happen today is if you were in there during the at bat, you felt it and thought, "Let me try another swing," and then you take it and you're like,
Yeah,
"Ah, I
right.
got some problems." But yeah, I mean, it could be some. It's interesting too because they've been very quiet about it, which maybe they just aren't sure right now, and are waiting it out. It would be a real shame after he responded the way he did in June and even in July now if he's not able to come back and misses a significant chunk of time. I that'd be a shame.
Yeah, it's.
And
I'm
and and
hoping. I'm hoping that he comes back and hasn't been out long enough to lose his timing. I think that's kind of what you're worried about.
yeah, yeah,
There are. It's quite hitting's
because
about
it
timing for everybody, but for Brian Reynolds, it's almost more important than most. He lives and dies on timing. So
if you miss in if you have an oblique that ends up being uh, lengthy, you're almost coming back, and if you're not starting over, it feels like it, quite honestly, as a hitter.
yeah, and depending on how bad it was, which it just from seeing him walk around the dugout and whatnot, I'm going to go ahead and guess it's not like something that they're super concerned about.
Hmm.
Um, I've seen people with obliques; they tend to be a little more ginger about everything, and I saw him skipping down the dugout. So like, I feel like he's probably closer to all right than not. But
Yeah.
and it might
First of
just
all,
be the All Star breaks coming up here. They're like, screw it, you know.
they are super painful injuries if you really do strain an oblique. And I can tell you this because I have had one of those that I did get playing. And you swing a bat thousands of times and nothing weird happens, and then you swing it one time, and yeah, I felt it all the way up my side. And by the next day, I felt like I got kicked in the side, and I had bruising up and down my side. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it can be crazy. So let's hope he's averted any like the huge crisis situation here.
yeah. Let's hope. And
What else? What else is going on?
well, we got David Bednar, named to the All Star game, and that's great. He's the
Yes.
only one that I think is really deserving this year. I don't think anybody got snubbed or even close to it.
No, he was the guy. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, even, that we felt like this was a foregone conclusion. He deserves it. I thought kudos to the Pirates about how they handled it, and that segment they did on social media about Shelton making sure he was
Yeah, they
he
did.
was
They did it last year too for Frazier and Reynolds. That was nice as
yes,
well. And I,
but it felt a little different because it was a Pittsburgh kid that got it.
yeah, but I mean, good for him. He's come here and he's one of those rare acquisitions that nobody knew who he was when the trade went down. Um, People I remember openly saying that they got him thrown in just because he was from Pittsburgh to lighten the blow of moving Musgrove, and all he's
Boy, would
done
it be
is come here and been a dominant closer.
it would be great to, and maybe that'll be a little bit of something I'll do, is go digging around and see what I can find of what people might have said at the time. Because yeah, I mean, yeah, you wonder like if people kind of dumped on it or poo-pooed it, but I mean, my goodness, he's almost been the centerpiece of it all, right?
I mean, it's worked out that way. But I mean, I certainly didn't know him from Adam when they
No,
acquired him. I think Hudson Head was the big name in that deal, and I
Yeah,
think,
probably.
you know, he's certainly not been, you know, the guy in
Yeah,
that deal.
and the only thing I'll say too about it or add to it, because I do think it's pretty cool for the area, is I think they said he is the first WPIAL guy, meaning from Western PA, that has made the All-Star team since the absolute legend Dick Groat in 1962 made it for a WPIAL school.
And
So that's
that's an
really cool.
athlete of a completely different color. I mean, that
Yeah.
man, he did everything.
Yeah, I mean,
Unbelievable.
so it's just really cool. I mean, it doesn't happen very often, and for him to be here from here, people here take some serious pride in that, I think.
Right. And I guess O'Neal Cruz he's been good. Flashes of brilliance. Um, little bits and windows into what he could be, from swing to swing. But we're
Yeah,
also seeing the rookie.
sure.
We're seeing the guy being attacked on things that he struggles with. And I also see that the talent is there for him to figure it out. I see him look better his second at bat against a pitcher, and I think that's the sort of stuff I want to see out of him right now. I'm willing to kind of forego a lot of the stuff. He's not going to learn what he needs to learn in AAA.
No, someone brought that up as a comment to a question I posted is what does everyone think about Cruz right now? And someone did say that. I wish I could remember because I would want to give them credit for it on the show, which is someone said, I just be patient, and which I totally agree with, and a lot of people said that, and that he is somebody that cannot. There's not much else to learn down there. He can now learn here and get through some of these growing pains. I thought maybe one of the most interesting things about O'Neal Cruz is it just popped into my head is just he is the only thing that I think that has shown that he has really struggled and needs to figure out a little bit is he's really struggling against left-handers, and
Which
he
has not
hasn't.
been his MO.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He has not been that bad in the minors historically against left-handed pitching, but I will say that when you get to the majors and you face lefties on lefties, that is a different ball game. That is a whole different breed of facing left-handers. So, and they sat him at least for a game against a lefty. People did ask you. Our buddy Nick Camuso, I think, asked a very legitimate question, which is how's he supposed to learn to hit them if he's not in the lineup? And I just felt it was more of a breather situation, like he'd been
I th-
going through it.
I think for one thing too, there's different kind of lefties. A lot of people don't think that way, but if you have like a right-hander who really struggles against right-handed pitching, like Michael Chavis, okay, and there's a right-handed pitcher who has a really really good sweeping slider. You know, he's
Right.
really good at tagging the outside corner. He's really good at having it dart just outside. Michael Chavis is going to strike out against that guy 75% of the time. There's no way there's not a book on that, right?
Well,
So,
I mean, you see it every at bat of
exactly.
his.
So O'Neal Cruz is no different. You facing a lefty, if he faces a lefty that throws a lot of high heat, well, he's a smart kid. He knows what he's doing, and he has good bat speed. He'll catch up to it over time. You throw him
Yeah.
three of those, he's going to pipe it. But if you get him a lefty that throws those big sweepers, that's not
He,
fair to
it's it
him.
it it looks probably like it should in a lot of cases.
Yeah, so reality is, I think, with O'Neal Cruz, if you want to start seeing progress, I think you'll start seeing him draw a lot more walks, forcing people back into the hitting zone because otherwise you're putting that speed demon on base. And if you put him on base, he's going to hurt you because he pushes the action. and he
Yeah.
forces it on the base paths. He's going to go first to third on a normal single.
It's actually a really, really good point that I'm glad we got to and that you brought up, which is if he's got to start walking more. He's got to force
Yes.
pitchers to come to him.
He don't need to
And
be Daniel Vogelback, mind you.
no,
Swing
no,
the
we
bat,
don't want.
big boy. But
Yeah, yeah, like don't do what got you here. Don't not do that. But at the same time, yes, because that's what you're seeing is when you take a look at O'Neal Cruz's numbers and you're like, man, his OPS should look a little better, shouldn't it? Or his, however you want to quantify what he's doing. It's simply because he's just not getting on base enough on those other at bats that he's not doing anything.
yes, and I think when you start showing them like, you walk me, I'm going to make you pay anyway.
Yeah.
You might as well try to pitch to me. I think he's going to see a lot more pitches. That's what I think will happen over time. And that he's going to balance that. Sometimes a kid, once he does start learning that he has to take stuff, well, then he takes too much. And a good pitcher figures that out and they start knowing, okay, so I need to be borderline and he'll take it.
It's a fine line.
Yep.
He's got to learn where that line is. And this is the other thing I'll bring up, and I'm gonna throw. You know me, I like to do the whole multiple sport analogy thing every once in a while, and I'm gonna do it here, and I hope it makes sense.
Yeah.
This is what I see with O'Neal Cruz, and this is what gets me excited, is that I don't need to see greatness or awesomeness all the time from a young guy. I just want to see flashes of it. I want to see it pop out here and there and go, "Ooh, hey, wait a minute. Did you just see?" And the reason I bring this up, did you just see what I just saw is when Ben Roethlisberger first came to the Steelers and they had to throw him in there and he was raw and he didn't know how to read a defense yet. But his natural athletic ability and the things he was able to do, you would be like, wait a minute, rewind that. Did you just see what he did in the pocket there?
Yeah.
And then he would do something great, and you would say, oh my God, if he figures it out, look out. And that is what gets. And I'm getting goosebumps saying that stuff because look what it ended up for Ben.
Well,
But that's
it
what
is
you're looking for, right, Gary? And
it
that's what you're
is.
seeing with him.
It is. It's what you're looking for, and it's nice to have it happen to you once. You know, like
And I take it you mean as Pirate fans.
I do, and I say that because look, this kid, he could wind up being way inferior to Andrew McCutchen. That's a lot to live up to.
Sure.
But Andrew McCutchen did not have a ceiling like O'Neal Cruz does, and that's why he's so exciting. Because
Definitely.
as incredible a player as Andrew McCutchen is and was, he was never going to be able to do some of the things O'Neal Cruz can do. Now, does he turn into that? Who knows? But right
Yeah.
now,
Long way to go.
just watch the special and realize there's things he has to learn. And when he gets striked out and looks bad, he's learning from it. He is.
Yeah.
Watch him the next time he comes up. Watch how different he approaches it the next time he comes up.
Right.
He knows what's happening to him. It takes a while for kids. Let's give them patience. Look what happened to Jack Sawinski. You know, which I saw recently, Jim. There's some people like actually calling for him to go down to AAA. And that's just batshit to me.
Hey.
At this point, but
Yeah. I mean, these younger guys are going to go through it at times, and boy, I feel bad for Jack because he's really going through it. But that doesn't mean you just say, "Oh, first time it's been hard. Let's send you down to AAA." Oh, by the way, the guy has 14 home runs. They're just I mean, why would you do that to a kid? Um,
when your home run leader just went on the IL too. Let's go ahead.
yeah. So,
Let's
look,
cut Vogelback too.
sure, why not? But no, like when you look at Cruz, it's just great that you're seeing the glimpses of it, and that lets you know it's there.
Yeah.
And you can't take your eyes off him. And even when you watch him at the ballpark or just watch TV, watch how many people just don't take their eyes off the guy. He has that it factor. Now let's hope it just develops onto the field that it's the same it factor.
Yeah. Anyways, it's been fun. The team's been fun. Little winning streak for once, not bad. And I guess all in all, you got to see how they get through this Reynolds stretch. But I feel like they're going to finish the season pretty strong.
Assuming Reynolds isn't out for any length of time, because look, in small doses, anyone in baseball, you can get away with not having someone. If he was out for a longer time, it would look pretty rough for the lineup. Over time, baseball, there's just nowhere to hide that.
No.
Having a guy like that. But I will say this, like looking for the rest of the season, big thing is stay away from those losing streaks. That 9-game losing streak has really kind of made that record look a little rougher. Now they earned it. They own it. They have to. I mean, it happened, and no one else did that to them. But if you can avoid those types of slides, you could keep the record manageable and the progress going in the right direction, I think.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this conversation this week about baseball, because next week, I'm afraid it's unavoidable, Jim. It's time to talk trade deadline.
Uh-oh.
We have to. We have to. It's coming.
It is.
And if we don't start discussing it, I feel like we're going to hear a lot of crazy rumors until we kind of lay it out as far as maybe why you make a trade and why a team like this might want to trade somebody.
Definitely.
I think there's some things we can talk about there that'll make this a little bit easier on some people's stomachs, huh?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something we absolutely can dive into because it's going to become an issue or a topic regardless. So,
all right, Jim. So, hey, thanks again for working with my schedule.
Absolutely, dude. Get on back to the Berg.
Oh, I can't wait. And
you're out there. You're out there in the Twilight Zone right now. I can't wait to hear all the stories. So,
it's just it's a shame, honestly. But how do people get a hold of you, brother?
Yeah, man. Twitter all the time. Pittsburgh all the time. Steelers, Pirates, Pitt, and Penguins. It's for the city _412 or at Jim Stamm 22. And so that's how you can get a hold of me. And appreciate it, Gary. This was good.
Yeah, this was good stuff, man. And honestly, I got to watch every game while I've been out here. So it's been really nice. So I haven't missed really anything.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I even got to catch a Giants game the other night. So that was fun.
Man, I can't wait. I can't wait to Sunday see that ballpark. I hate it that I have not seen it.
It's beautiful. It's my second favorite. It really is.
Yeah. I have a feeling it will go right in that spot for me too. Everything I've seen, man, they just nailed it.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And the fog is a thing. It's really neat when the fog rolls in. It really is.
Now, does it get chilly like they say at night? Does it
yes.
really?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Really does. Yeah. You don't want to be wearing shorts around at night and whatnot. You want a hoodie. And
interesting.
It's pretty chilly. So
we'll get back home, dude.
Good stuff. Anyways, it's time for Ben to do a late night version of this sign off.
Thanks, guys.